Welcome back to another project. In this project, we are going to create a random color generator. As you can see from the final version of the project, we have different colors on the website, each with a different color code. And if you refresh the page, each time we get different colors with different color codes, we are going to create these color codes using JavaScript. And we are going to create them randomly each time for 30 color containers. The website is also responsive. If you decrease the size of the website, you can see that on a bigger screen, we have 4 columns, and then we have 3, 2, and 1 column as we keep decreasing the size of the screen. So see you in the next section for the HTML part of our project. All right, let's start our project. First, we open Visual Studio Code, and here we close the Get Started tab. In the File menu, we click on Open Folder. I would like to create the project as usual on my desktop, but you can create it anywhere you like on your computer. So here we click on the desktop, and then we click on the New Folder button to create a new folder. We name the folder Random Color Generator, which is the name of our project. We press Enter, choose the folder that we have created, and click on Select Folder. Here we close the Get Started tab again, and on the left side in the Explorer section, we need to create an HTML file. We just need to right-click, and then click on New File. We name the file index.html and press Enter. Now on the right side, we have our index.html file, which is completely empty, but we can use an exclamation mark to create an HTML5 boilerplate. So we just need to type an exclamation mark and click on the first auto suggestion. As you can see, now we have our HTML5 boilerplate, which includes the doc type, which tells the browser which version of HTML the page is written in. And in our case, since we are using HTML5, we just need to have HTML here. Then we have the HTML tag, which is the top level element in the HTML file and includes the head and body tags. The lang attribute inside the opening HTML tag sets the language of the page. Since we're writing our project in English, we set the language to English by just writing an. Next, we have the head tag, which includes 3 meta tags and 1 title tag. The charset attribute inside the first meta tag defines the HTML character encoding, and UTF-8 is recommended by HTML5 for web developers because it contains almost all characters and symbols. This way, users can easily see our project and won't have any problems viewing the characters and symbols on the page. Then we have the compatibility meta tag, which tells the Internet Explorer browser to use the most recent rendering engine, which is Edge. The viewport meta tag tells the browser how to resize the page based on your device's screen width. With this tag, the content attribute sets the width of the page to the device's screen width. For example, a mobile screen will be smaller than a computer screen. The rest of the content sets the initial zoom level of the page, and the default value is 100%. After that, we have the title tag, which sets the title of the page. We can see the browser here inside Visual Studio Code using the Live Preview extension. We just need to right-click here, and then click on Live Preview, Show Preview. Now we can see the browser on the right side, which is completely empty, but shows the title document. Let's close the Explorer section to have more space on the right side. Now let's change the title of our website to the name of our project, which is Random Color Generator. Now we can see Random Color Generator inside the tab of the browser. Next, we start our HTML coding inside the body tag. First, we add a header by using an h1 tag. This will be the name of our project. We just write Random Color Generator. We can see it here in the preview. Then we add a div with a class of container to include all the colors that we're going to create later using JavaScript. Inside this container, we have the color container, which is just a box that has a color and the title in the middle. So we add a div with a class of color container. Inside this div, we just have a color code, so we add a random color code. This code needs to be 6 characters long. For instance, you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So we just copy this a few times. For example, 6 times, because we're going to use this data in the next video where we'll style the project using these divs, numbers, and color codes. Later, using JavaScript, we're going to create these divs randomly with different color codes, different background colors, and also the title. For now, we're just hard coding a few numbers and a few divs so we can style our project in the next section. That's it for the HTML part of our project. In the next section, we're going to start styling our project using CSS. So see you in the next section. All right, in the last section, we finished the HTML part of our project. In this section, we're going to start styling our project using CSS. First, we need to create a CSS file. So we open the Explorer section using Control-Shift-E, and on the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and select New File. We name the file style .css. Before using CSS in our project, we need to add a link to the CSS file within the HTML code. So we go back to index.html, and just after the title tag, we add a link tag. We just write link and click on the third auto suggestion, the one for CSS. Now we have a link tag that connects our HTML code to the external style sheet, which is stored as a CSS file. The href attribute defines the destination of the link, and since both files, index.html and style.css, are located in the same directory, we can use a simple file name here. We just need to write style.css for the URL. Now we can use CSS in our project. We save this HTML file using Control-S, and we close the Explorer section by dragging the divider to the left to have more space on the right side. Then we go to style.css and start with the body section. We just write body and open a set of curly braces. First, we remove the default margin of the body section. We just write margin 0, and we change the font family to be, for example, cursive. And yeah, that's it for the body section. Next, let's style the H1 and bring it to the center. We just write H1, and we use text align center to bring it to the center. Then we need to style the main container, the container that wraps all the divs with the class of color container. So here we target the container class using .container, and we change the display to flex to bring them next to each other. But we want them to go to the next line when we decrease the size. So we set flex wrap to wrap instead of no wrap. This way, each time we have a smaller screen, the new container goes to the next line. Then we use justify content center to bring the items to the center horizontally. After the container, we start styling the color container itself. Let's change the background color to orange so we can see it better. Later, we're going to generate this background color randomly using JavaScript. But for now, we'll keep it orange so we can style it more easily. We set the width to be 300 pixels, and we set the height to be 150 pixels. We change the color of these texts to white. And let's change the display to flex to bring this one to the center. And before that, let's add some margin so we can see the boxes separately. We just say margin 5 pixels. So now we see the boxes in a different place because we use justify. We use flex wrap. When we increase the size, what we see depends on the size. We have a different number of boxes in one row and a different number of columns. So let's change the display to flex to bring this text to the center horizontally and vertically using justify content, center and align items, center. Justify content, center brings them to the center horizontally, and align items, center brings them to the center vertically. And let's change the font size and increase the size of the text to be 25 pixels. And as we may have very light colors in the background using the generator, maybe we cannot see this text clearly later. So let's add some text shadow to this text to have some shadow effects so we can see it clearly on lighter colors as well. So we use the text shadow property. And the first value in the text shadow property is the position of the horizontal shadow, which we set to be 2 pixels. Then we have the position of the vertical shadow, which we set to be 2 pixels as well. And we use 4 pixels for the blur radius. And we want the shadow to be black with some transparency. So we use the RGBA function to set the color, and we set 0 for red, green, and blue, which gives us the black color. And we use 0.5 for 50% transparency. Let's use Alt-Z to turn on word wrap so we can see all the code clearly. And let's add some border. To each box, we just say border. We want it to be solid with black color and also with 2 pixels width. And let's change the border radius to be, for example, 10 pixels. I think this is fine. Yeah, in the next section, we are going to use JavaScript to create these color codes randomly. And also, depending on these color codes, we change the background color of these boxes. So, see the next section for the JavaScript part of our project. All right, in the last section, we finished the CSS part of our project and set everything up. And in this section, we are going to start adding functionality to our project using JavaScript. We're going to create and generate these color codes randomly using JavaScript. First, we need to create a JavaScript file. Here we open the Explorer section using Ctrl-Shift-E, and on the left side in the Explorer section, we right-click and select New File. We name the file index.js and press Enter. This is the same as the solid CSS. Before using JavaScript in our project, we must add a link to the JavaScript file within the HTML code. So we go back to index.html, and here at the end of the body tag, we add a script tag. We just write SC and click on the second auto suggestion, the one with the src attribute. And as both files, I mean index.html and index.js, are located in the same directory, we just need to write index.js as the URL inside the src attribute, which defines the destination of the data. Let's close this Explorer section again by dragging this line to the left so we have more space on the right side, and then we go to index.js to start coding. First of all, we'd like to generate these boxes using a for loop, and to do that, we create this div with a class of container, a color container, and add it to this container. So first, we grab this container element using query selector, so we create a const, call it container element, and set it to document because we want to create it inside the DOM. And we use the query selector method. And because the div has the class of container, we just need to add .container as the selector inside the parentheses and double quotes. We can use Alt-Z to turn on the word wrap so we can see the code clearly. And then we add a for loop. We just write for, and here we click on the second auto suggestion, the one with the for loop. So it gives us a template. And we have an index which starts from 0 and goes up to the array length. We want to create 30, for example, boxes or containers. So we just write 30, and we want to increase the index by 1 each time. And here we want to create a div. In order to create an element, we can use the create element method. So here we want to create a color container element, and we can do that using the document.createElement method. The element we want to create is this one. After creating it, we want to add the class for our container. To add a class to the element, we can use the class list property and the add method. So here we have our color container element. We use the class list property and the add method to add the class. The class we want to add is color container. After that, we need to append this new element inside this container. So we just write container element.append child. And the child we want to append is this color container element, color container. As soon as we add it, you can see that we have more elements here. Now let's remove this hard-coded one that we created before. So from here to here, we delete them all. That way, all the boxes you see are created here, and there should be 30 boxes. Now let's open this project in Google Chrome by using Open in Browser. You can see that now we have 30 boxes, and they are responsive. On a bigger screen, we have 4 boxes in 4 columns. Then we have 3, 2, and 1 column as the screen gets smaller. So now we go back to Visual Studio Code. Now we want to create these color codes by using a function. First, we create the function. So we create a function, we call it random color. The charset that we have for creating the color palette has all the numbers from 0 to 9. So we write that here. It also has the letters from A to F, so we just have to write A, B, C, D, E, F. We want to create random color codes using these characters. All right, so that's our setup for generating the color codes and the color length, the color code length. So we just write on our code, length is equal to 6. Then we start with the variable color, or we can use let or var. We just say color. First, we start from an empty string, and we use a for loop again. But this time, the for loop length will be the color code length. So we just write color code length. So we're going to loop through the color code length. So we're going to create each character one by one randomly and add it to this color variable. So first we create the random number. So what we want is like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. We have 16 characters. So we want to create a number between 0 to 15. So in order to do that, we just create the random number. We just create a constant. We call it random number, and we use the math.random method. Because we want it to be between 0 and 15. So we can just say, multiply this by this chars array, by the length of this chars array. So it's just a chars array. And now we're creating the random number, but this is the number. Let's log it first so we can see what we're doing. And let's call this function as well. So we just say random color. We open the console. As you can see, we are creating 6 random numbers, but they are not rounded. So we can use the floor method, just say math.floor to create these numbers like this. Now we have 0, 8, 0, 14, 4, 13.
4, 13.
So this means 0 is the first number, 8 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 would be the index for 8, and then we have 0 and then 14. So we want to add these random characters together to create this color code. So let's change this to a color code. Here, let's close this console log. Now we want to add this new number to this color. So first, the color is empty. And then we want to add the new random characters using char, at, and substring. So we want to get the string inside it, but which one do we want to get? We want the one that starts at the index of the random number and goes up to the random number plus 1. What does this mean? For example, if this random number is 2, we have it here, and then until 3, it means from 2 to 3, we get the character at index 2. Let's log this character or color to see the color code. We are getting the color code. So let's console log the color code and see it inside the console. As you can see, the colors first start from empty and then become B, B3, B3, B2, and each time one new character is added to this one. And if we check what the random number is, let's clean the console, log, and refresh the page. You can see first we get the character at index 11, which is the letter B, then we get 14, which is the letter E, then we get 0, which is 0. And then we have 11, which is the character B, 6 is 6 and 14 is E. So each time we refresh the page, we get a new random color. Now we also want to create 30 of these random numbers and put them inside the boxes that we have created. So instead of calling random here, we create another function that will actually generate the colors. And this function is going to loop through all these 30 boxes that we have created. So here we just say color container elements. Actually, we don't have these 30 yet, so we need a way to get all of them. We just create a constant and call it all the color containers. We add an S here, so we are clearly getting all of them. We use document.querySelectorAll to get all the containers with this class. So we just copy this and paste it here. And let's delete this one first. And then we can cancel it like this. We can see that we get a node with 30 elements, which all have the class of color container. Now we can loop through all of them using the for each method, which actually executes a function once for each element of this array. So we just say color containers, we add the S to get all of them, and then we call for each, and that gives us each one of them. First, we create a function, we trigger this function, and we can get each element of this array here inside these parentheses. We just say color container element without the S and put it here. So we are getting each element with this name, and then we first create a random color by using this function. So we should create a constant and call it random. We just call it new color code, and we get it from this random color function. So right now, we are actually not returning anything. So instead of console logging, we have to return the color code. So we just say return color code. So here, if we console log the new color code we get, we should see 30 values. First, we should call this generate other colors function when we run it again. Color codes is not defined on line 27. Yeah, it should be color code instead of color.
Yeah.
As you can see, we are returning each of them, even though this return should be outside this loop. So we're only returning the last color code. So if we now refresh the page, we should get 30 color codes like this, and they should be different each time. When we clear the console and refresh the page, each time we get a new set of color codes. All right, now we are creating the color code here, and we first want to change the background color of these elements, these boxes, using the style property. We just say color container element dot style dot background color, and as you can see, the JavaScript syntax here uses style. The JavaScript syntax for CSS is a little bit different from the CSS itself. The background color property here has a dash, but inside JavaScript, it's written in camel case. So we don't have any dash, the words are connected, and the first letter of the second word is capitalized. So the background color should be this color, new color code, but the new color actually needs to start with a hashtag. So we just add a hashtag at the beginning, and then we add this new color code. All right, so now we can see different colors in each box. Each time we refresh the page, we see a different background color for each of the boxes. And now we also want to get the text inside. So here we just say color container element dot inner text. With this method, we can change the text inside an element. So we add a hashtag again, plus the new color code. Now we are getting the color codes inside as well. Each time we get a different one. Let's check it in the browser as well. As you can see, each time we refresh, we get new colors and new color codes. All right, that was it for our project. I hope you enjoyed it and learned many things. See you in the next project.